What's going on, guys? EA Cars here. So for those of you who watched my first video ever, which is probably none of you, that's okay. I made a video talking about the prices of a Lamborghini across the world. And I thought it was really interesting to see how much the same car could cost so differently from city to city. So interesting, in fact, that we're here today talking about the different prices of a Ferrari across the world. So the cities that we're going to look at are all in different countries and are pretty spread apart and different in their own way. And the first one is going to be in Canada, specifically Toronto. So hopefully you guys know Toronto from the NBA Finals. Then we're going to go to Miami in the States. From there, we're going to go all the way east to London. And then we're going to look at Australia, Dubai, and lastly, Monaco. So before we get this video started, we have to make sure we know which Ferrari model we're looking at. And I chose the 488 GTB for two main reasons. So the first being that it's a pretty recognizable car and that everyone kind of sees this car and instantly knows it's a Ferrari. And two is that the used market has finally adjusted to this car. So what do I mean by this? Basically, when a new Ferrari comes out, you can't just go into the dealership and buy it. You have to be on Ferrari's special list and you have to buy all their cars and they have to like invite you for you to a chance to buy the car. It's kind of dumb, but that's how it is. So what happens is people who want the car and aren't on Ferrari's list have to buy it secondhand. So the people who actually got a chance to buy the car, they sell their car on the secondhand market for a premium, which means that the price of the car is going to go up. Luckily for the 488 GTB, it's been out long enough that the people who want them have already bought them, which means that the price has slowly gone down to reasonable values, and it means it's the perfect car for this video. So I quickly went on AutoTrader and I just searched Ferrari 488 GTBs for sale in Toronto. Surprisingly, I only found three, two of which were 2018s, and for the sake of this video, we're going to keep it to that model year. And the first one was 1,700-ish kilometers and cost around $349,000 Canadian, or around $262,000 in freedom units. And the other one had around 700 kilometers and cost around $359,000 Canadian dollars, or 269,000 US dollars. And in Toronto, it's pretty straightforward with the taxes and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's just a flat 13%. So if you add the tax, you get $405,000 and $395,000 for the two cars respectively. Something to note for these cars is the mileage. So you saw on the car with 1,700 kilometers, it costs almost $10,000 less than the one with 700 kilometers. And this isn't unique to Ferraris, but I feel like it's the most common with Ferraris, where they depreciate a lot more depending on the mileages on the car. So right off the bat, we see that there's nothing really special going on with Toronto. They have pretty reasonable prices and a pretty normal tax percentage. As we continue on with the video, it's nice to look back and see how much it costs in the various cities. With that said, let's take a look at how much it costs in Miami. So I chose the three most relevant Ferraris, and the first one has around 800-ish miles on it and it costs around $275,000. And in Florida, there is a 6% flat tax rate. As far as I know, there's no fishy business happening here. So after tax, that car is looking at around 290,000 US dollars. And the second one, which I found is even more expensive, and it costs $280,000 before tax, or around $296,000 with tax. And it actually has more mileage than the last one. It has 1,850 miles. If I had to guess why this one costs more, even though it has double the mileage, it's probably because of the options. And then the third one, which is probably the worst deal out of them, but hey, I don't know, maybe it could have some really good options. It has almost 5,000 miles on it and it costs $260,000 USD, which is around $275,000 after tax. So if we compare the two cities, we see that after tax, the price is actually about even, but the fact is that you get a lower mileage car in Toronto versus a higher mileage one in Miami. And if I had to guess why the prices in Miami are more, is that it feels like in Miami more people want supercars, which of course, simple economics of supply and demand drives up the prices. So now that we've kind of seen the prices in North America, let's head out all the way out to the UK and see how much it costs for one in London. Okay, so before I show you guys the cars that I found for sale, I think it's first important that we look at and understand how the tax system works in the United Kingdom, specifically London. So if you're like me and you're from North America, it's pretty different. You don't pay like a flat percentage based on the purchase price of the car. Instead, you pay a yearly fee based on how much CO2 emissions your car gives off. So in the case of the Ferrari, if we look at the table, we see that obviously it's going to give off the most amount of emissions. And for the first year on this car, you would pay around £2,135. And then afterwards, you pay £145 per year for that car. And then if your car costs more than £40,000, you have to pay an additional luxury tax. And in the case of this car, it would be £465. Immediately, we see that just on taxes alone, you're paying a lot less for the car on the sale price. But in the United Kingdom, the gas prices are higher, there are a lot more tolls, and there are a lot more fees you have to pay for, driving through the city and stuff, which is probably why they pay a lot less in sales tax on the car. The two cars I found were pretty similar in price and both pretty high mileage. They were between 3,500 to 5,500 miles on them, and they both costed anywhere between 235,000 to 241,000 American dollars. And then the third one I found, which was significantly cheaper for some reason, again, if I had to guess, probably due to options, and it cost 225,000 USD, even though it has only 400-ish miles on it. So far we see that London actually has the cheapest 48s for sale, and then we have Toronto, and then Miami. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Dubai. So in my search of finding a 2018 Ferrari 488 GTB in Dubai, I couldn't find one. I don't know why. I found 2017s, I found 2016s, but I couldn't find a 2018 GTB. I don't know why. If someone from Dubai knows the answer, please let me know. I'd like to know why. But I have no idea why they're not for sale there. You could find 2019s, 2017s, but not 2018s. I don't know, maybe something wrong with the year. So the cars that I found are going to be 2017, so let's take a look. Luckily for us, Dubai doesn't have a really complicated tax structure or anything. It's super straightforward. All it is a 5% tax on the purchase price of the car. With that said, if we take a look at the white Ferrari, we see that it's pretty high mileage relative to the other cars that we've seen, and it's around 6,000 kilometers or 4,500 miles. It does cost significantly less than the other ones we've seen, specifically the ones in Miami. It costs around 211,000 US dollars or 221K after taxes. And then if we look at the red one, which actually costs more even though it has higher mileage, probably because of options, we see that it costs $217,000 or 227,000 US dollars after tax. And the interesting thing to me about these cars is that because they're 2017s, of course they're going to be higher mileage, but the fact that the mileage actually doesn't change the price too much. Even in this example that we saw, these two cars, there's around a 4,000 kilometer difference between the two, and the price isn't that much different. But if you look at the ones in Canada, even a 1,000 kilometer difference actually changed the price by quite a bit. So something interesting to know when looking at cars in Dubai. I have a feeling it's because people in Dubai don't really care too much about the mileage as long as the car is maintained. So before I even made this video, I knew offhand that in general, car prices in Australia were pretty high and taxes were pretty high as well. But when I looked into the specific number, I was pretty surprised. What Australia has is something similar to actually here in Vancouver, but they call it the LCT, which stands for Luxury Car Tax. Pretty good acronym if you'll ask me. Some acronyms are really weird where it doesn't really make any sense, but this one's pretty good. And basically you have to pay this tax if your car costs more than $60,000. So in the case of a Ferrari, this is obviously going to happen. And if we use the example of $500,000, for no particular reason other than the Ferraris might cost that much, and I'll show you in a bit. If we use $500,000 as our example, the tax on the car is around $130,000. And the reason why I said $500,000 as an example earlier is because most of the Ferraris that I found for sale were anywhere between the $500,000 to $535,000 range. And note, this is in Australian dollars, so if we convert it, we get them priced at $340,000 to $362,000 USD, and that's before we add the luxury tax. So if we use this Ferrari I found, which was actually the most expensive one because it was really low mileage and had really good options, we see that the price is actually insane. So after the luxury car tax and all the stuff and every whatever stuff they add, it's around $775,000 in Australian currency, which converted is around $525,000 US just for this 488 GTB. That's nearly double the cost of how much it is in Canada and in the United States. So in my search and finding a 2018 Ferrari GTB for you guys' reference, so you can compare all the other 2018s, I didn't find anything, unfortunately. And I actually tried to look for newer Lamborghinis and newer Porsches, and I couldn't find anything that was like new. It was pretty weird, although I did see new McLarens, so I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because people who are actually buying these brand new Ferraris and Lamborghinis are buying them somewhere else and then importing them to Monaco, but that's just my guess. So luckily, Monaco is really straightforward in terms of their tax. They charge a 20% VAT, which is a value added on tax on top of the purchase price of the car. So let's take a look at the actual Ferrari that I found, and it's a 2015 488 GTB. So immediately we see that this Ferrari, even though it's a 2015 with 11,000 kilometers on it, it's not cheap. It's around 200,000 euros, which is around 225,000 USD. And I mean, compared to the other cars from 2018, it is cheaper, but it's also 3 years older and it has higher mileage. I mean, the pricing is kind of comparable to how much it costs in Dubai, but those were newer cars, 2017s. Even though this is a 2015 and it's kind of hard to compare it to a 2018 because of the depreciation, I think it's a good reference point showing that these cars in general will be more expensive. You know, if a 2015 is costing 200,000 euros and it has this much mileage, a 2018, if I had to guess, will probably cost almost $100,000 more at around 300,000 euros. So for a lot of you, myself included, that's probably a lot of information all at once. So what I'm going to try to do now is try to put it into a nice little table or something and explain it to you guys in really simple and quick terms. So using my magical Excel powers, I created the most mediocre Excel table known to mankind, but it gets the job done and that's all that matters. So let's quickly go over this and just kind of see what's going on. So off the bat, we see that Australia costs the most for base and the tax. Don't want to live in Australia. Dubai is the cheapest, and I think everyone probably guessed that this would be the cheapest place to buy a supercar. Middle of the pack, Toronto and Miami. They're pretty similar in price. The tax in Toronto kind of pushes it a little bit more than Miami. And then we have London, which is surprisingly the least tax spot, but that is because of the fact that they have that, you know, tax that I discussed earlier, where you pay once a year and then you pay yearly past that. And then Monaco, this one was the hardest to gauge because it's a 2015 and I couldn't find any 2018s for sale for some weird reason. But I guess the base price of this 2015 kind of speaks volumes to how much a brand new one would cost. And that's basically it. This video was just kind of going over the different places and different prices across the world. Kind of interesting to me to see how different it varies from place to place. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing and I'll see you guys in the next one.